Present.
Alder Abbas is present. Alder Harrington McKinney. She's present. Okay, I see her. Alder Harrington McKinney is present. Alder Skidmore. Okay, Alder Skidmore's not here yet. Alder Hennick.
Here.
Alder Hennick is present. Alder Cheney. Here. Alder Cheney is present. Alder Campbell.
Here.
Alder Campbell is present. Alder Bedar.
Here.
Alder Bedar is present. We got quorum.
Thank you. And now could the technical facilitators please read the meeting instructions?
Okay, welcome to our virtual meeting. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Committee members, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, please activate your video when you're speaking. The chair, clerk, and tech facilitator are responsible for muting and unmuting committee members. Please use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. During any roll call vote, all panelists will be unmuted briefly. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the committee, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. President Carter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Alder Abbas.
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
This is Mike. I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. If there's no objections, I will record a unanimous vote. And there are no objections, so that's what I will do, record a unanimous vote. Moving on to item 3. Are there anybody registered for public comment?
We have one registrant for item 6 that does not want to speak and does not oppose or support.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 4. Are there any disclosures or recusals? I do not see any. So we will move on to item 5, and that is a discussion with our mayor, Satya.
Thank you, President Carter. I know that your time is limited here at CCEC, so I'll try and be brief. But I did want to go over a couple of things, starting with economic development. I hope you all saw that we have launched a match program for the Kiva Madison loans. So just a little background, I'm sure you're all familiar, but for anybody watching on the award-winning Madison City channel that isn't, Madison became a Kiva city some time ago. Kiva is an international crowdfunding platform that offers in Madison, 0 interest, 0 fee loans to entrepreneurs and small businesses. In Madison, you can get up to $15,000 in a loan on that platform. And starting, I guess, last week, the city is putting up a match for these loans. So if, for example, a business wanted to sign up for the Kiva Madison program and was asking for a $10,000 loan, they would need to raise $5,000 on the platform, on the crowdfunding platform, and then the city would match that for the total of the $10,000 loan. So again, it's no fee, no interest. It is a loan, and it is focused on small businesses and particularly on businesses owned by people of color and women. I've been a Kiva lender for several years now. I think it's an easy platform for folks to sign up for. And we are really looking to expand the number of Madison businesses that are taking advantage of this platform. So I encourage you to communicate with your constituents about it, both in terms of making sure that businesses know about the opportunity, if it's something that would benefit them, but also in terms of constituents who may want to become Kiva lenders and support Madison-based businesses through the Kiva platform. A couple of other things. There's a number of things on our council agenda tonight. I won't go over those. I assume you're all familiar with them related to economic development. I did want to note that you probably saw in the news that the county is working with the Urban League of Greater Madison to support efforts to plan a business space and incubator for Black-owned businesses, similar to the Sherman Phoenix in Milwaukee. And I wanted you all to know that we have been in conversations with the Urban League as well, and I've asked our real estate department to assist them in their search for property potentially, particularly if they're interested in the Villager site in any way, to just have those conversations so that we can support their desire to locate on the south side in the Park Street corridor. And I expect that as they develop that project, that they will probably come to the city for further assistance on the financial side. So I don't know what that might look like at this point in time. I don't think they do either yet. It's too early to say, but I just wanted to flag that for you that those conversations have happened. Also want to flag for you that we have been a part of conversations that are happening in the community between Black-owned businesses and businesses on State Street about the potential to have pop-ups of Black-owned businesses in partnership with State Street businesses. There's not a lot more detail to share at this point, but I was approached by somebody in the community on this, and I've asked our staff to participate in those conversations and see how we can support that. Similarly, I hope we've been working with a local agency on home ownership, particularly in the Black community, as a way to build wealth, and those conversations are going forward, and you should see more about them soon. The last thing I wanted to flag, so there's actually one more thing on economic development in particular. Again, I think you all know this, but there is the Economy and Culture team under the Funding and Recovery Task Force, which is working with the Economic Development Committee and trying to advance, in light of COVID and everything else, focused economic development approach. And so just to, again, flag for you that those conversations are going on at the staff level. And then finally, I just wanted to say that, there's been a lot of conversation about where we should be putting our energy around economic development and what neighborhoods we should be supporting, or what kind of people or businesses or, whatever we should be supporting. And I just want to say that my office is ready to work with any alder that's interested in forwarding an idea around this and trying to put together something. And we've had a few alders approach us already and ask for help in finding where we might be able to fund something, or for staff time to help put together a program. And we're happy to do that. I think we all know that there's a lot of work to do in terms of Madison's economy for this year and next, and probably several years going forward. And so anybody who is interested in something for their district or citywide or a particular approach, please don't hesitate to reach out. And at this point in time, the best deputy mayor to reach out to is Christy Baumel. We'd be happy to have conversations with you. And of course, obviously, economic development staff are available as well. I'll pause there and see if there's any questions on that item before I move on. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to update you on was just some federal efforts and various things that we've been engaged with. In no particular order, you may have seen that I've joined Mayors for a Guaranteed Income. This is a new group that's led by the Stockton mayor. Stockton, California has been piloting a universal basic income program for about a year now. And Mayor Tubbs decided that he, as part of the effort to push this at the federal level, wanted to form a group of mayors and invited me. So I have joined. You will be seeing, I hope soon, thanks to Alder Evers, resolution supporting guaranteed income efforts at the federal level. And we're still in conversations with the staff of the new organization to see what else that might mean for Madison and what we might want to be engaged in. But I just wanted you to know about that. This week, we expect a fair amount of action in the Senate around a potential next package, relief recovery package. I think you all know that the House passed the HEROES Act. The Senate is not likely to, I think there's no chance of it passing that exactly, but they're now in conversations about what they might propose, and then obviously negotiation will take place. We sent a letter to the delegation, I believe yesterday, emphasizing our priorities, leading with the need for direct funding to local governments, and laying out the case for that, but also talking about the question of guaranteed income direct payments to residents, childcare issues, which I think are going to be fairly severe come this fall, and I think that may be it. But I will ask staff to share that letter with you. I would encourage any of you that are so inclined to call our delegation, particularly our senators. I know I've said this before and I will say it again, but absent federal support, direct federal support to the city of Madison, we are going to have to make some very, very difficult decisions in our budget, both this year and next. And those would be vastly easier if the Senate would see its way towards providing direct support to cities across the country. So I would really encourage you to call our senators and emphasize that fact, and be happy to support that in any way if anybody has questions more specifically. I also wanted to alert you, Madison is a member of the Mayors Against LGBTQ Discrimination, and they alerted us to an amicus opportunity it's a suit around whether cities can uphold non-discrimination policy or not, and enforce that at the local level. So look for a resolution giving the city attorney permission to join that amicus opportunity in the not too distant future. Another national group we're part of is Cities Thrive, which is focused on mental health issues. They do have a number of resources. In particular, they just did a webinar about the Cahoots program and several other similar programs around the country. I've shared that information directly with Alder Martin. I'm happy to share that with others. And just in general, wanted to flag for you, this is a group that's run out of the First Lady's office in New York City, and has put together fairly substantial resource lists, if anyone's interested. Finally, just one other group actually two other groups to alert you to. One is Mayors Against Illegal Guns. I've been on a couple of their webinars that have been quite useful. Good information in this time. The last one was about preventing gun violence in communities, and they have a lot of good information up on their website if that's something that you're interested in focusing on. And then the last is it's called the City Pandemic Resilience Group, and it's focused on testing, tracing, and supported isolation during COVID, and a related group called the Testing Solutions Group. And so these are groups that are combination of mayors and city officials, public health officials, and academics who are focused on what the best practices are going forward as we try and contain the COVID-19 pandemic. And those have been also quite useful groups in my mind, and public health has been participating as well. And I'm happy to share more information about any of these if folks are interested, but I did want to just make you aware of the number of ways in which we're reaching out and working with other cities and national groups. I'll pause there and see if there's any questions about any of that. Okay, and so then the last thing, not to take any more of your time, is that we have started holding weekly briefings to update the community and the media on things that perhaps aren't quite worthy of a press release, but are still important and folks should know about. These are generally going to be on Thursdays at 11 a.m. This Thursday, there will not be one because we're having a separate press conference. But we are going to try and have them on a weekly basis. And I just wanted to extend the invitation, certainly to you, President Carter, if you ever want to attend, or if you want to send your chief of staff to do a briefing, there's definitely room for that. And then certainly to all alders, if there's anything that you want included in the briefing, whether that's an event or a particular meeting that you want to make sure people know about, or update on a piece of legislation or whatever it might be, feel free to reach out to Katie Crawley in my office and let her know if there's anything from the past week that you'd like us to make sure gets included in that. And that is what I have for all of you. I'm happy to pause again to see if there's any questions. And if not, thank you very much. And I will see you in not too long on the Zoom screens.
Thank you, Mayor. We are going to move on to item 60965. Alder McKinney, can you talk to this? Creating that new ordinance?
Yes, I can. Thank you for unmuting me. This item was referred to this meeting because at the last meeting, I was having technical difficulties and was not able to speak to it. Item number 60965 is pretty straightforward. And what it does, it further clarifies how and the process that an alder can be removed from a board, committee, or commission in which that person has been accounted. It sets forth the conditions for an alder to be removed from an appointed council appointed position. In 2018, there was an amendment that allowed either the mayor independently or the president of the council independently to remove without reason an alder from a board, committee, or commission. And so what this subsection does, it codifies the reasons that duly sworn in alder would be removed from an appointed board, committee, or commission. And in this subsection, it says that removal must be by cause approved by both the council and also the mayor. And by cause is inefficiencies, neglect of duty, official misconduct or malfeasance in office. And that simply codifies how and why an alder would be removed from office. As it stands now, without that clarification, an alder can be removed at will. And so it was important to me because I found myself in that position, and I would not like to have another alder to be in that position. So this codifies the language in a very specific way. And if the alder is not in violation of any of these inefficiencies, that alder cannot be removed unless it is agreed upon and voted upon by the full council. So that explains it. If someone has any questions, I'd be happy to expand on it, but it's pretty straightforward as it's designed in the analysis.
Does anyone have any questions for Alder McKinney?
Does this require a vote? What's the process?
Quick. Oh, just one moment. Alder Furman has his hand up.
Thank you, President
Alder
Carter.
Furman.
Thank you, President Carter. I have a question about who actually will determine, or what is the process to determine inefficiencies, neglect of duty, official misconduct, or malfeasance in office?
That's a good question. It's and the reason that it was not a separate ordinance, the attorney felt that it would fit within the confines of a subsection, and so I don't have that answer. I'm not going to assume. I would say that if the president made a determination that either the president or the mayor would make a determination to remove an alder, that president or that mayor would have to give cause of that removal. And so with that cause of that removal, it would then have to be approved by the body. So does that answer your question?
Alder Furman, we have Attorney Haas on the line, so he might be able to address that also.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And just to add to what Alder Harrington McKinney just said, the last sentence of subsection C talks about the removal being made upon hearing of the Common Council. And so the council would ultimately determine whether there has been inefficiency, neglect of duty, official misconduct, or malfeasance in office. And that's consistent. This is for obviously removal from a board, commission, or committee, but that is consistent with what's in the statutes for the council to potentially remove an alder from the council as well. It requires a hearing and a 3/4 vote.
Alder Furman, do you have any additional questions?
No,
that's sufficient.
That's sufficient. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what is the action?
So Attorney Haas, do we need to vote on this? Oops.
Well, it was
That's my fault.
It was referred to this committee, so I think that would typically require a vote, right?
Okay. So can I get a motion?
I so move the approval.
Alder Hennick?
Second.
I didn't hear you.
Second or move, whichever you need at this point.
Okay, I didn't hear a motion, so I'm going to take it that you're moving this, and then I need a second.
I moved.
You moved? Okay.
Alder Harrington.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second, and then we have a question from Alder Foster.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess a follow-up question perhaps for Attorney Haas.
So you said that the language around the inefficiency, neglect, duty, et cetera, that's from the statute. Is that's for when the council would want to initiate action, or is this, I guess my question is that a required element of this, or could we require concurrence of the Common Council without this additional requirement of inefficiency, neglect, misconduct, et cetera?
No, it's a good question. What I was referring to is a statute currently in section 17.12 that's referenced, that deals with the council removing an alder from the council itself. This applies to a board, commission, or committee. So it's not required to have that language in there. I think the idea was that it would kind of mimic the process that was set up in the statute for removing an alder from the council. But since this has to do with removal from a subunit of the council, that would not be required to be in there.
Thank you. And then the 3/4 vote also, I would assume that's again for removal of an individual. That's not a requirement either in this case, that it could, if we wanted, it could be a simple majority concurrence. Is that also true?
Right. I'm just double checking the new statutory language. Well, subsection D of that 17.121D talks about removal by the council may be made only by an affirmative vote of 3/4 of all members. So I think that that is required.
Thank you. I did have a comment, President Carter. I don't know if that's in order, if all the rest of the questions are done.
Can I come back to you?
Sure thing. Yep.
Okay. Alder, no? Okay. Alder Foster, I'm back to you.
Great, thank you. I wanted to thank Alder Harrington and Kinney for working on this and bringing it forward. I'm very much supportive of requiring the Common Council to vote in support of removal. I'm a little bit, I'm not overly concerned with the other requirement, but I worry that it's perhaps not needed and it may just set things up to be a little bit confusing. So I think particularly if it already requires a 3/4 vote of the council, I can't imagine that happening on a whim for no good reason. So I guess I would be more supportive of it if it removed the line about malfeasance, et cetera, because I think, I don't know if this is what Alder Furman was getting at, but I think it just raises some questions of what does that process look like? Does there have to be proof? And it seems like it may just perhaps overcomplicate things. So that's my input on it.
Okay. Attorney Haas, do you want?
Yes, thank you. I will note, the statute talks about removal by the council being for cause. Okay, so I think at the very least, it would have to state for cause, which in many cases sort of equates to the types of terms that are in there. But this statute only refers to it as being removed for cause. In other words, there needs to be a reason. It can't just be an arbitrary removal of a person from a committee.
Could I clarify something, President Carter?
Yes, Alder Foster.
Thank you. Attorney Haas, is that, I think I understand that's if the action is, I guess, instigated by the council. That requirement's obviously not there if the removal is instigated by the mayor. So in the case where sort of here, we're not really, as I'm reading this doesn't actually give the council the authority to remove someone on our own, but only it is just adding a requirement to a mayoral removal that the council needs to agree. So are those perhaps?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's a good point. So the ordinance says may be removed by action of the appointed authority, typically the mayor, and concurrence of the council. The statute talks about an officer being removed by the appointed officer at pleasure. So the mayor could just remove somebody for no reason, or by the common council for cause. So yeah, I think I stand corrected that you're correct. That has to do with basically confirming a removal by the mayor under this proposed ordinance would require one of those standards and a hearing and a 3/4 vote.
Madam President, if I may, I don't know if Alder Rummel would want to weigh in as well, since I'm not sure if the work group on Alder APMs would clarify that language as well, or whether it could be something that's different that could be open for discussion.
Okay. Let's go to Alder McKinney and then Alder Rummel. I'll come to you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. It is important. I would never have thought that this would have been even necessary, and the way that the statutes are written, that it would be self-explanatory. But what it is that there is a need to clarify for cause, because if it's not, it means that arbitrarily a mayor, and I guess I misread this statute because I thought that it said an appointment by the mayor and or the president. So please, Attorney Haas, clarify that for me as well. But without this added specificity, it says that the mayor at will without cause can remove an alder. And it is really important without cause, which means that subjectively and arbitrarily, it gives the mayor the right to remove an alder who has been from a board, committee, or commission that has been duly sworn in. Of course, the reason that I put forth this is that the language needs to be clear. So if this is an instance that comes forward at another time, we would have a process by which we would know exactly what are the steps that should be taken in order to get to the outcome. And I'm glad that the Chief of Staff mentioned Alder Rummel, because I don't know if this should be incorporated in the APMs or not, but specifically, we should not have to revisit this space again. So it's clarity in how we're going to process if we find ourselves in this position again in the future.
Thank you. Alder Rummel, are you? I don't think she's available.
Yes, she's there.
Oh, hi, Alder Rummel. There you are.
Thank you. It's the Zoom world is like you can do more than one thing at once. I know it's kind of cheating, but I do that now. Hey,
Marsha, I'll let you go.
So, okay, I hadn't really thought about should this come to that committee that we're working on, and so I don't really have a strong opinion. If people want it, it hasn't been meeting, so, and we'll discuss that coming up.
That's fine.
The point is that whether if it's somebody else has power over you, whether that would be the right place to codify that, because if it's our own internal rules, seems separate than something where like the mayor could take an action. But we can certainly discuss it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Attorney Haas, one more time.
Thank you. And I apologize because I think I confused this conversation. This was an ordinance that was drafted by Attorney May. And I was looking at the statute again, and I think that the new language in the statute was subsection 3M. And I'll just read it. It says, notwithstanding subsections 1 and 2, the city may by ordinance provide that any appointed city officer may be removed only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, official misconduct, or malfeasance in office. So I think the intent was that this ordinance would be drafted under that new provision stating that a city may create an ordinance providing that any appointed city officer may be removed for one of those reasons. So under that provision, I believe that inefficiency, neglect of duty, official misconduct, or malfeasance in office does have to be part of the equation for this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Does anyone object to recording this as unanimous? Just one moment. You're unmuted, Alder McKinney.
I have one additional question for Attorney Haas. When we had this discussion, Attorney, you said that you thought that an ordinance would not be necessary, that it would fit within the context of a subsection of the statute. Could you say more about that? Because I want to make sure that when we move from this place, that it's very clear, because we've had a discussion on this that was complex. I thought it was simple, and then it's been back and forth. We don't want to revisit this again. We want it to be very clean, very precise, and not misinterpreted in any way. And so right now, I'm thinking the language is not clear. I know it's clear, but it's not clear. So, so does a subsection do that, or is it necessary to have an ordinance? And I'm not advocating for either one, but I just don't want us to visit this place again.
No, it's a good question. I think it's necessary to have an ordinance unless there is a provision that would allow removal, but that just says that the council could remove. It says that basically members of a subunit could be appointed by the mayor at pleasure for no reason at all, or by the common council for a cause. So without this ordinance, that would be how somebody could be removed under the statute. With this ordinance and the new statutory language, it does provide a further restriction, especially as to older persons who are on a board, commission, or committee, that they cannot be removed except by the mayor and with the concurrence of the common council, with the 3/4 vote, a hearing, and a finding that there's been inefficiency, neglect of duty, official misconduct, or malfeasance in office. So this definitely does provide greater protection, if you want to say that, and also more specific standards for removing an alder from a subunit than would exist under only the statutes if you did not have the ordinance.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Attorney Haas.
Okay, thank you. So again, we have a motion, we have a second. Alder Kimball.
Yeah, sorry to drag this out, but I thought
that's okay.
As this was being drafted, that statute refers to, and this is what Alder Foster was trying to get at earlier, refers to being removed from office and the process for being removed from office. And I think the thing that Kwesi was bringing up is couldn't just adopting our own rules govern how our members are unappointed and appointed from committees, having nothing to do with their being a city official, with their status as a city official. It's just a committee appointment. Couldn't we just adopt our own rules around that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you asking Attorney Haas?
Yeah, I'm asking Attorney Haas.
Okay.
Because, right, this was right before you came in when, I remember having some discussions around this, and there was not clear. It wasn't clear whether the issue of being on or off a committee had anything to do with the status of being a city official, and therefore the statute might not apply to that.
I think that if you look at subsection A of the proposed ordinance, that tries to clarify that members of a subunit, members of a city board, commission, or committee are city officers. So their office is membership on the committee. So that attempted to clarify that, they are city officers for purposes of this subsection 4, which has to do with how somebody can be removed from a board, a commission, or a committee. So,
but alders are city officers regardless of their committee appointments. They're not officers by virtue of their being on that committee. They're officers by virtue of being elected.
Right, but the office that is being discussed here, it says, first of all, it says all members of city boards, commissions, or committees are city officers, not only alders. It's just clarifying that.
Yeah.
And the office that is at issue is their membership on the subcommittee. So it's the removal from that office. It's not the removal as an alder. It's a removal of an alder from the office being a member of the board, commission, or committee. I guess I'm not clear on what the alternative is.
That was what the ambiguity was about. Is that so? Are alders city officers multiple times? Or is that like an identity of a person, or is that, part of the role? And there's no really case law around that.
Okay, so if you start with subsection B of the ordinance, it says except as provided in subparagraph C.
Yeah.
So B applies to all members of subunits who are not alders. C applies to members of subunits who are alders. So this ordinance is setting up that method of removal of an alder from a subunit. So I'm
right. So my question is, instead of doing that, couldn't we just adopt our own rules to say that the council has to approve anytime a mayor tries to remove and appoint someone from a committee?
Well, you can adopt your own rule, but if it's in the ordinance, I think it's a more permanent rule.
Well, could we do that and just do that part in the ordinance? Like, why is all of this other stuff necessary if the main intention is for the body itself to have to approve the mayor's decision?
I'm not sure I'm following you, but I think that the ordinance says a couple things. It clarifies that members of a committee are city officers, and so therefore they can be removed pursuant to what's in the statute. And except members of a subcommittee or a committee who are alders have to be removed with a hearing and a finding and a 3/4 vote. Members who are not alders can be removed by the mayor at pleasure or by the council for cause. So I guess I'm not quite clear.
It seems super, super complex, and we will need to develop rules around what is that process, and have our own internal investigation. When really what we just want to do is say the mayor can't do it by themselves, I think.
So, but the statute is saying a city can remove an officer, only for these standards, only under these standards. I mean, I've been part of these hearings before where committee members there's been a hearing, and it's basically, I don't think you have to have an investigation. It's just a hearing. if the mayor is proposing that somebody be removed, the mayor makes their case. There's a hearing. The mayor and the committee member have a chance to state why they should or should not be removed, and then the body votes. There isn't any big investigation. It's just a hearing is all that's required.
So would this make obsolete our practice of if you have three unexcused absences in a certain period of time, you can be removed from the committee? Would that supersede that practice?
Well, this applies to alders. So I think if you're an alder and you've missed 3, you still have this protection that there would have to be a hearing and a finding and a 3/4 vote. If you're not an alder, then I think that could apply, but there would still have to be, the mayor would still have to remove the person under the statutes, because now it's been clarified that this is a city office. And so that brings that statute into play about how the person could be removed. So the mayor could remove the person if they have missed those 3 meetings, or the common council could, and they could cite that as being for cause.
And Alder McKinney also wants to chime in. Alder Kimball, are you done? Oh, okay. Alder McKinney?
All right, thank you. The reason that this needs to be clarified is that when there is an ordinance or a subset of an ordinance, it really sets the precedent, because if you don't have it codified and it is left arbitrarily, it still puts the current, let's say the alder in the position of being removed. And so let me step you through this. If an alder is appointed to a board, committee, or commission, and it's a 2-year appointment, and that alder is removed without cause, that puts all of the alders in jeopardy, because if there is some reason that the mayor has something without cause, or if there's an issue that's personal or subjective, that gives the mayor the opportunity to remove an alder from a board, committee, or commission. By subset, it says that if that alder has in office misconduct, malfeasance of office, or some reason to be removed, then that codified reason gives us a process by which we can go through and remove that alder. Without having that in there, there is no process number one for the alder to have a fair hearing. There is no process by which the mayor can say this is cause. This clearly separates and sets an example of how and why and the process that an alder can be removed from office. And that's exactly what it does. And for us to have a 20-minute discussion around it, that says the ordinance as it was written does need to be codified, does need to be clarified, so that there is a clear process by which an alder can be considered for removal. And it cannot be subjectively by the mayor for no cause. I think that we want to protect that, because again, without this specifically being codified, that means a mayor without cause can make a decision of, I'm going to replace that person for an office. That puts anyone who's assigned to transportation a 2-year appointment. The same for the mayor that says I'm going to remove you. Why are you going to remove me? Because it's subjective. And so that's exactly why, and I would assume that that's why we have the attorney here. That's why we have operational standards, so that there is a clear pathway to follow. And it doesn't depend on who's the alder, or it doesn't depend on who is the mayor at the time. It is codified by virtue of being a subset of an ordinance, and that locks it in.
Thank you, Alder McKinney. We're going back to Alder Foster.
Thank you. And apologies for dragging this conversation out, but Attorney Haas, I guess I want to make sure that our ordinance that doesn't conflict with state law. So in that special provision in 3M says that a city may by ordinance provide that any appointed city officer may be removed only for inefficiency, productive duty, etc. In your opinion, then it's okay that in our version we're limiting it to only older persons are now requiring that, and that so we can sort of modify that the allowable exception that's stated in state law.
Oh, hold on, Alder Haas. Sorry about that. Your hand's not up. I found you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a fair question, but the way I read it, it's the city can provide by ordinance that any appointed officer, I think the city can pick and choose which officers it applies to. So I think it's a valid ordinance. It's saying it can be any or all. So I think it would be consistent with the statute.
Okay. And then so would technically would the Common Council still hold the ability to remove at pleasure for any position that was appointed by the council, or does that also go away under this?
Right. No, it says an officer appointed by the Common Council can be removed by the Common Council at pleasure. So that would remain in effect if it's a position that is only appointed by the Common Council.
Okay. So we can just basically kind of selectively apply the clause piece to, in this case, mayoral appointment of an alder.
Right.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Alder McKinney, we're back to you. Your hand is up.
Let me call for the question, because if there's no other discussion, I think that let me lower my hand.
Okay.
I think that with the current series of questions, the clarification that the attorney has offered, and also the various questions back and forth, it does allow the Common Council to remove a alder from a board, committee, or commission, but it does remove the at will, at pleasure. And so I'm hoping that this subset does exactly what it was intended, to make it not as easy to be an at will removal of an alder without cause. And that's exactly that is the intent of it, to move forward with that, because it makes me very uncomfortable to leave inside an ordinance that says that a mayor has the authority, or even the Common Council president has the authority to remove at will, at pleasure, an officer, being an alder, assigned or appointed to a position that's 2 years. And so when we look at it past that, that leaves all 20 of us subject to an at will withdrawal just because subjectively. That's not how we want to move forward, because that's not how we should be doing our ordinances.
Okay, thank you. So I guess before I talk about a unanimous vote, I will say, is there any further discussion? Okay. If no discussion, I see no hands. I do see a hand. Alder Kimball.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm still, I mean, I completely agree with Alder McKinney. We need a process and we need to be super clear about what that process is. I'm just not sure about this, the last sentence in 4 sub C. And I don't feel confident about voting for this right now. If that sentence were gone, I would. So I'm just not I'm gonna abstain from this vote. And maybe when it comes to council, I'll have further conversations with the city attorney and with you, Alder McKinney, about this. But anyway, that's just an explanation of how I'm going to vote. I've never abstained on anything before. This will be my first time.
Okay. I see no further discussion. I say that with all the caution in my body. Since I see no hands, is there any objection to casting a unanimous vote except for one abstention? Okay, I see no objections. I will record this as a unanimous vote with one abstention. Okay, thank you. That was a lively discussion. And I appreciate all the different points that we got on that one. Since we only have a few minutes, that's okay. I just wanted to bring your attention to item 7, and that is our 2021 Common Council meeting schedule. So if you can look this over, and actually if you see anything that you think should be changed, can you send me a quick email before Monday of next week? I would appreciate it. It is not something that we need to actually vote on. So if you can just send me an email, that'd be fine. I am going to go to item 8, and that is an update from the President's Work Group. That is Alder Rummel.
Thank you, President Carter. Thanks for tweaking my brain about a committee hasn't met since March 5th, like one of the last meetings before the kind of shutdown. And at that time, I think we had brought to the council an agreement to extend our work timeline to July 31st. And of course, I might need to have another resolution to extend again. I did follow up today with Attorney Haas about the committee, and I don't think Attorney May really had briefed him on it, so he's doing a little due diligence. He'll check in with Kwesi if he didn't do it already, and I think, and I'll check in with the president about where it fits into our hierarchy of important committees, because I don't know. And when I dug up my notes while I was waiting, and there was a memo from Attorney May from February 3rd that, for Attorney Haas's benefit, that summarized kind of the way we were thinking. And I'll remind you all that we said, our task was to look at the APMs and see what should apply to alders. And we did a first run. Well, Attorney May identified some he thought were the key ones. And we've gone through all of them on a first round. And I should say that Alder Harrington McKinney and Alder Furman are also on the committee with me. And so we found a whole bunch that we said they don't apply to alders. And we just, we might put in our Common Council policy guide just, a basic reference to them. And then we would add a new section into the policy guide that would talk about the ones that might apply. And some of these have not been fully vetted. And so a couple of the ones that are sort of tricky and or contentious would be, say, about a harassment or rules of conduct, the APM 3-5 and APM 2-33. So we still need to go through those and kind of work through what that means. Maybe we don't make rules about these things. Maybe we say the voters will decide if something was so egregious and has to be dealt with that way. But, we haven't really finalized that work. And the last piece of it was, we were going to talk about what enforcement remedies we might recommend, and we haven't really done that. So, I won't speak for others, but I'm sure we would be willing to finish our work and with conscientiousness about all the other priorities and limited IT time, et cetera.
Okay, thank you, Alder Rummel. And Alder Foster, I'm looking for you now. Oh, thank you.
Great, thank you. So our update, we have been able to meet a couple times since we got the extension. We have 7 more meetings scheduled between now and our deadline in September. We worked through the items that were on our list that had come up in our work so far and agreed to focus on trying to address 3 remaining topics before the end of our work. So those 3 are social media accounts for alders. The second one is looking into how public comment is received to alders, both via email as well as through the sort of council and board committee commission public comment process, and see if there's any opportunities for streamlining there. And the third topic is related to calendaring and how alders, how we can use calendars more effectively for meeting schedules, et cetera. So those are the 3 items that we prioritized to try and take on as a work group. There was a number of items that were on our list of interest, but that we didn't think we'd have capacity to take on. So we will plan on including those and calling them out in our report, but we'll not have time to take them on as a work group.
Okay, thank you for that update. Are there any other announcements before we adjourn? Okay, then can I get a motion? Alder Abbas?
Motion to adjourn.
Alder Hennick?
Second.
Thank you. So is there any discussion? I see none. I say that with hesitation. We will cast a unanimous vote, meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in an hour.